So today's lecture is about introduction to C++ language. We all know C++ is what? It is a programming language, and C++ is having certain viewpoints which we are going to see in the overview of C++. Now let's see what are the points I have put in the overview. First of all, it is a compiled type language, right? So we all know what does compiled type means. We all know what is the working of compiler. What does it do? It just converts, because what we are writing, the programming language, the programs we are writing are in high level language, right? And just machine does not understand the high level language, so it needs to be converted into machine language. So this is the job of the compiler. It converts the high level language into the machine language, and then it is understood by the machine, and then the vice versa takes place to give the result, to give the output, right? So that means whenever we are writing the program, we need to compile it and then we will run it, right? Compiler does one more thing, that is it gives you the errors also. It can define the errors. Let's say you have a program which have 100 program lines, and in the 50th line number you have missed a semicolon, let's say in a syntax. So that is a syntax error, and it will define you that in line number 55 the semicolon is missing, right? So this is the compiled type languages defined. Second point is C++ is machine independent. That is a very important point for C++. C++ is a machine independent, means that it is not only working or executing in Windows or in Ubuntu only. It can be defined. If you are using the Windows, it can work in Windows also. If you are using this particular Mac, you can work in iOS, and it can work on Linux. So this is what? This is the machine independent language. That is a very good feature of C++. Next point is its execution is very speedy. That means the C++ programs get executed at a very high speed, and that is why these particular this particular language is also is taken on priority if there are competitions on languages, right? So just because of the reason that it has a speedy execution. In terms of Python and Java, if you compare this language, it is very fast in execution, right? As compared to Java and Python also. Now, next point is it is an object-oriented language. We have already understood, well defined in the previous 3 units and in the previous lectures, what does object-oriented means. That means just a simple review, that is whatever you can see in front of you. You can see a table, you can see your laptop, you can see a bottle, you can see your phone. These are what? These are the objects, right? These are the objects. And when we generalize these objects, that means all phones, all phones, that means we are talking about the class phone. But when I talk about specifically my phone, I'm talking about, that is a object. And similarly we can have live-in objects. So it is particular language which is based on classes and objects, and we are using this particular formation in this, right? It is not a procedural language. Next thing, it supports pointers which lead to direct memory access. We all know what is pointers. If we want to directly access the memory, we can use the pointers, because the C++ supports the pointers. We have already studied the C pointers in C also, right? So that have the same thing. This particular C++ programming language is also used in many of the gaming applications. Example, FIFA, if you have played. So in that particular, multi-threading is taking place and multiple players are doing multiple jobs at the same time simultaneously. So that particular process is taking place, and that is compiled in C only, right? And this C language has a syntax which is not very complex. It is less complex and compared to other languages also. So these are just the highlighted points for the C++, which you need to remember. Now we are just going to see the basic structure for C++. That means we are going to define what are the components which are defined in the C++ program, right? So first of all, the first thing is called as the using of namespace standard, right? Using of namespace standard. This you can see. Now, what is this? This is namespace. See, let's say if I need to find a student as Rajesh in my class, okay? So, there can be number of Rajesh in my class. There can be two Rajesh. There can be three Rajesh. I mean to say there can be more than one Rajesh. So, I need some additional information to identify the unique Rajesh, right? I need to identify the unique information for that particular student named Rajesh. That means there is no confusion between these two Rajesh which has the same name. So similarly, to identify, to arise or to formulate this particular situation in C++ application also, there should be no confusion between the same libraries. It can be there that there are same functions with the same name in different libraries. So to avoid that particular and to identify those particular specific functions, we are always going to use this particular using namespace std in our C++ program. So what is this? Is this namespace simply defines a scope. It defines a scope. That means in multiple libraries, if you have two different functions with the same name, those particular functions can have same name and it will be getting misconfused among those two if we are not using this namespace. So to avoid that confusion, C++ is using what? Namespace. So this is the working of namespace. Just remember. Now, second thing is what? Hash include IO stream. See, we have already done C also. So this is working in the same point. That is, these are what? These are the header files. This is the inclusion. Here, IO stream is what? I'm going to include the header file in my program. That means there are certain functions which are inbuilt in the library regarding different functions. So here IO stream is what I am going to, if I'm using those particular functions, I need to include this header file in my program, right? So what does IO stream means? IO stream means the input output stream, right? So input output stream is defined here as the header file, and I am including this particular header file so that the functions I'm going to use, those can be called and those can be easily run and compiled in this. Example, here you can see cout. Cout is what? Cout is used for print function, right? That means this is an output function. This is going to give the output as hello world. So this particular function is defined in this IO stream library or in header file. So if I am not using IO stream and I am using the cout, then this program will give me a error and it will not give me the result. So this is the work of IO stream. Include, hash include IO stream, that is inclusion of the header files and libraries due to the which are inbuilt in the C++ form. Now next one is this one, that is int main brackets. This is what? This is a function. This is a main function. Here this main is the name of the function which is defined, and this integer is what? This integer is called as the function return type. That means every function returns something. So this particular function is going to return a value which has a data type of integer, right? So that is what int main, and this particular brackets are defined main void. Now this is what? This is the line from which the main execution of the program takes place. So that defines the main program, right? Now we are going to start with the curly braces. This particular curly braces is started after the int main. And here we give our code which is written whatever we are defining in the program. Now this is a simple program in which we are just displaying hello world in the console, on the console. So how do we display it? This particular function is used, syntax cout is used for printing or displaying, I would say, right? So to print this particular statement as hello world on the console, what I need to do, I need to give cout and this less than sign 2 times, and then in quotes I'll give hello world, and then I'll give the semicolon. This semicolon is very important. If you miss this semicolon, then the error will be given by the compiler. So every line will have this particular semicolon in your program. Then you were going to return a value. This return 0 is defined by, I have told you that this is a main function which has a return type of integer. So I need to return some integer value. So I return 0 to complete this function, semicolon, and I'll close the braces, that is curly braces. So here, what is this? This cout is what? Pushing output to console, and this return is what? Value must be returned at the end of the main, right? So I have told you why this value should be returned at the end of the main function. So this is what? This is a basic structure for the program in C++. So these are various components we are going to use in every program, and let's understand it in more detail, right? Now next, one more thing is there which is called as the comments in the program. So comments are basically not the part of the code, right? It is not the part of the code we are writing in the program. It differentiates between the code and the lines which we are writing for our understanding. So that is called as the comments. That is called as the comments in the C++. So first of all, what are comments? Comments are lines ignored by the compiler by compilation. Why these are ignored? These are ignored because this is not the part of source code. This is not the part of code and the programming. This is just a understanding concept which defines the part which is helpful for the programmer only. Now, why do we define these comments? We define it to make the notes or provide details, etc. How do we give these comments? We are going to use twice or 2 / if we have a single line comment, and we are going to give the / asterisk and close it with asterisk and / if we have a multiple line comment. So if we are going to define a comment which is single line, I'm going to give the 2 /. Now these 2 / will tell the compiler that this is not the line to be compiled and to be executed. So it is going to avoid this particular line and move to the next line to compile the code, right? Example, here we have taken how we give the comments in the programming. We define, let's say we have written using namespace std to, I have just, for my understanding, for the clarity, I have written 2 / and the namespace. That means the compiler will see these 2 / and understand that this is not the part of the code, and it will move to next line, that is using namespace std. Next, I have defined it as headers with 2 /. So same way, the compiler is directly moving to from using to include directly, and it will run or execute or compile this particular part, and so on and so forth, right? So this is how the comments are given in the program. These are not the part of source code. Now we are going to understand the data types and values. See, when you are writing a program, let's understand one thing. Whenever you are writing a program, what you are doing, you are actually taking certain input, you are processing it, and you are giving output. Now, what this input is all about? This input is all about the data only, right? What you are giving is, what you are giving as input is data. And what you are giving the output, you are again giving the output, that is again the data, maybe in some other form, maybe after processing, right? So let's take an example. If I say adding of 2 numbers or sum of 2 numbers, so I'm going to write a program of adding of two numbers. So what input I should give? I will be giving two inputs, that is two values or two data, right? Let's say 10 and 20. So 10 and 20 are what? These are data. So what I am inputting? I am inputting the data, right? And then there is processing, that is addition of these two, that is 10 plus 20 is being done. I get 30 and I'm going to display the output. So what I'm going to display? I'm going to display 30. And what is 30? 30 is again data. So in program, it is all about the data. So what we have to work on is we are going to work on the data type. Now data can be of different types, right? So these particular data types are being defined in this form. We have two basic types of data types, which is called as first the primitive type and second one as the derived form. Now when we say primitive type are different types. Let's say first one is boolean. Boolean, we all know what is this. This is true or false when we have the logical form, and we have either true or false. And whenever we are writing true, the machine is giving it as 1, and whenever writing it as false, the machine is going to understand and give the result as 0. What are correct characters? Characters can be all the A to Z and special characters which are defined in quotes, right? Whatever is written in quotes, that will be taken as characters. Next one is integers. Integer is the value, integer value, which is defined as, it can be any value. Let us say minus 30, 24, 0, 9, 32. All these are what? These are integer values. Next is floating value. Floating value are the values which are defined as only the decimal values. In this we are going to store only the decimal values. This is the data type. Now next one, let's say it is 3.86 or 83.54. So these are what? These are coming under the floating point. Next we have the, so this is what? This is decimal values. So next we have the double. Double is what? In concept or in consideration with the size of the floating point, it will be double. Let's say if floating point is taking 4 bits, right? Then double will take how many? 8. So just twice or 2 times of whatever the floating point is defined. And last one is the valueless. That means where we are not going to define any value. That is, example, we define it as void main, in you must have done in C also. So that is no value is being passed in this. So these are the different types of data types we are going to use here. Example, we have taken integer, right? Integer A. So integer A means A is a variable. We are going to discuss variable also. A is a variable which is of which data type? It is of integer data type. That means the value which is stored in data is integer type 10. So this is integer is the data type, while 10 is what? 10 is the value. Okay, so next one, let's say float. Float, we have B is equal to, let's say 20.8 example, because this is decimal value. So 20.8 is what? This is a decimal value. This is a variable. B is a variable. Float is a data type, and 20.8 is the value. So this is how we represent it. Now next one is the derived. Derived is what? Derived means which comes from the primitive, that is array, right? Array is what? Array is when we have multiple elements of same data type. That means here either we are talking about single integer value, single float value, but we have, when we have a sequence or a number of specific data type, those particular are termed to be as array. That means at a time we are storing 10 integers, let's say. So that is what? That is an array. But you have to remember there will be multiple elements, but these all elements should be of same data type. This is the concept of array, sorry. So I hope you must have understood this data type and value. What is data type and what is value? Now, what is this variable, right? We have two things. We have one is variables and second one is termed as constant. One is variable and second one is termed as constant. Now we all know what is this constant. Constant is when we have the value which is not going to change. example, I'm going to write a program in which I'm going to calculate the sum of two numbers, that is 20 and 30. So I'm giving the value as number 1 20 and number 2 30, right? I'm adding 20 plus 30, simple. So that means this value are not going to change anytime. This particular program is not going to work for any other number, right? So because these have the constant values 10 and 30, 10 and 30. I have defined it in the program only, right? But when I am defining the variables, it means I am taking a variable, let's say A, and I'm storing certain value, and this particular value can change every time as according to the user, right? If I write a program for enter a number A and enter a number B and then A plus B. So whatever the user is entering, let's say first time we are entering 30 and 40, so it will give us the result 70. But next another time again we are running and we can change the values. So where the values can be changed and it gets stored in a specific name, variable name. So those are what? These are the variables. Now what are the use of variable? Now see, in this particular program, this program will be constant and it will not be run or can give you output for other numbers. But this particular program can give you the value for other numbers also and can give you the sum for many values. So this is actually what I'm doing. I am referring the memory whose value can change during the execution, right? I have referenced a memory which is named as A. This is reference to a memory. So this is what? This is memory references whose value changes during execution. But here in the constant, the value does not change during the execution every time. It remains the same. But why we are using these variables? Why we are doing this? So because it makes the memory handling easy. We can reuse this memory. I have just assigned it as a name as A, but I can store any integer value in this every time, right? So it is what it is doing, what it is reusing the memory for storing different values, right? And it helps in making the memory references easier. Now we are going to see the syntax for this particular in C++, right? How we are going to, there are two things. One is initializing. Initializing means I am taking a name of the variable and I am defining which type of variable it is going to store the value, right? So I'm going to define the data type, let us say integer. So int and the name of the variable. Let's say I'm defining int A. So what does this mean? It means, and semicolon. It means what? It means that this is a data type and this is the name of the variable. I can write int num1. So that is what? Num1 is the variable name and int is the data type. So this is called as the initialization. It is the initialization of variable. Which data type it can store. Which type of data has it. Next one is called as the assignment. Now what is this assignment? Assignment is whenever we are providing or assigning a value to the name variable, whenever we are assigning the value to the variable, that is called as terms as the assignment. So let's say I have initialized it int a semicolon. Now I am going to write what? I am going to write variable name, that is a is equal to 2. So this is what? I am assigning the value to the variable, semicolon. So A is what? A is the variable name and value is the 2, right? So here 2 is going to store in A. So this is called as the assignment. Now, we can just see the example of this. We have seen this is what? A is a variable in which 10 is the value which is stored and B is the variable in which 20.8 is stored. Why 20.8? Because this is a float value, decimal type of integer, and this is integer data type, right? So here we can see, let's say, how we initialize and how we assign the values. We can do both the things in one go also, and we can do it in different terms also. So earlier I told you how to do the assignment. Int a semicolon, this is initialization and this is assignment of value. This I have done in one step only. Here semicolon is missing here. So int a is equal to 10. So this is what? This is initialization and this is assignment of value. This is assignment of value. So that is done in one go only. So this is how we are going to provide the syntax for variables, initialization and assignment. Now moving further, we have user input and user output. How do we define it? Earlier in C, you must have studied about the print and scan. Scan you used for what? For taking the input values, and print for giving the output on the console. Here what we are using? We are using these two things, that is C in and C out. C in is used for input, right? If we are taking any input from the user, so cin is used for that particular, and c out is used for what? C out is used for giving the display or displaying on the console, giving the result to the user. So standard output stream is c out and standard input stream is what? C in, right? So C++ uses these two streams for user input and output. Now let's take an example of demo program, how we define the input and output. See, these are the things we are going to use always, using namespace std include hash include iostream int main. This is the main function starting up the curly braces. Then we have what? Then we have integer a comma b. This is what? This is initialization. This is initialization of variable, and then I'm going to write C out what? Less than sign 2 times. This is the syntax we are going to use. Enter a number colon this. Now this will do what? It will display on the console enter a number colon. Then I'm giving C in greater than a. That means whatever the value is given as a in the value, whatever the value is given in this, that will be taken as the input, right? So this is given as the input. The value which user gives will be taken in the input. Again, C out less than sign, enter a number. The second number will be given by the user, right? And it will give C, take C in greater than sign B. That means the value will be stored in B. Okay, taken as input. Then C out, sum of two numbers is this a plus b, then return 0, and lastly curly braces will be there. So it will give you the output as enter a number, because it is written C out, enter a number, 10 will be there. I have given 10, let's say. Then again it will take, it has scanned it, it has taken it as input. Again output will be displayed, or display will be there, enter a number. Now you are going to give 20. Let us say you have given 20. Again this is taken as input, because this is written C in greater than B, and then the output is given as sum of two numbers is 30. So this is how we run this particular program as the demo program, right? So I hope you must have understood, all of you, this, right? Now moving further, we have operators.